Joining me now is Louisiana Congressman Steve Scalise. He is the House Majority Leader. Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being here. What is your reaction to Kevin McCarthy's remarks there?
Yeah, great to be with you, Maria. Good morning. And, you know, if you look back when Kevin was a majority leader, the same kind of situation happened as what we have now. The Democrats just don't want to do their job in the Senate. Chuck Schumer hasn't processed any of the appropriations bills. We passed over 70% in the House, and so we're at an impasse. And look, if we just gave Chuck Schumer everything that he wanted and ended it this year, as Kevin's suggesting, then Chuck Schumer would get about an extra $80 billion in new spending. And President Trump, by the way, does not want that. And so, you know, in an ideal world, we'd get a final negotiation and we'd all be in agreement and we'd spend less money. You don't have that with a Democrat-run Senate and Joe Biden in the White House.
Wow.
And so all of that changes next year when President Trump comes in and we get a Republican Senate. And so we're having talks on a regular basis with President Trump. He's well aware of this dynamic, by the way, Maria. And ultimately, what Speaker Johnson negotiates is going to be done in conjunction with President Trump. And we'll be walking and chewing gum at the same time. In January, unlike back in 2017, this time around, we are in sync with President Trump on the agenda starting day one in January. We're going to be working on border security, on energy security, getting a big budget resolution, moving quickly. You know, we're having discussions. Will tax be in that package or not? That's an ongoing negotiation. But ultimately, we're going to do tax. We're going to do energy. We're going to do border security and rules and regulations, all in the first 100 days to get this economy back on track working with President Trump.
Yeah.
So we're going to be able to get those things done. We've been working on those, by the way, Maria, for months. I went and sat down with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago 8 months ago to talk about what the first 100 days would look like if we won everything.
Yeah.
House, Senate, and White House. And so President Trump's been focused on this, too. We had to win in November, and of course we did with an historic mandate. Now we're going to carry that mandate out. But we're not just going to start doing that in January. We've been working on this for months.
Yeah.
Committee chairs have been doing this. And we're talking with President Trump's team on a very regular basis.
Yeah, I know you have. And I'm going to get to your hearing coming up in a second. But how much money do you think you all will need for the border? You know, I spoke with Stephen Miller on Sunday, the incoming Deputy Chief of Staff on policy, and he's expecting, you know, a huge investment. But I guess my question is why you need to do two reconciliation packages. You'll need one, and you'll need what? I mean, John Thune's bill is talking about $60 to $85 billion for a border wall, ICE deportations, new energy permitting reform, and other things. But Stephen Miller thinks you're going to need much more than that. Here he is with me on Sunday. Watch this.
The plan is to put both on a fast track. First, you can get John Thune and Lindsey Graham have promised that they can get a full funding package for the border, the most significant border security investment in American history, which would be the biggest domestic policy win in at least 50 years, to the president's desk in January or early February. You're talking about what would be the largest investment in immigration and border security. This is something the Republicans have been talking about for decades. Now we're talking in January, early February, immediately to the comprehensive tax reform package. That's where you're going to figure out about different policy baselines that you're going to use for the tax cuts, about corporate tax reform, about trade reform, manufacturing reform, and all those tax policies. And with nobody is even talking or considering delaying tax.
Yeah.
Tax reform will happen. It will happen, and it will be the greatest tax bill that we've ever seen.
So, Congressman, is that the plan? You need two different reconciliation packages?
Well, we're having that conversation now. In fact, I was on another call with Stephen Miller just a few days ago about that very topic. You know, all the things, the good news is we're in agreement on all the things we're going to do in the first few months. And it's all of those things Stephen talked about and more. The question is, do you do it in one bill or two?
Yeah. We
can discuss and debate the best way to handle that. But ultimately, we're going to do border. We're going to do energy policy. We're going to do tax. And we're going to get it all done. You know, we've been hearing numbers are at $100 billion to secure the border and also fund what needs to happen to deport the criminals.
Yeah.
You know, we need to get our border secure, to build the wall, to give drone capabilities, some other high technology capabilities to our border agents. That will all be in that package.
Okay.
So we're talking with the administration about all of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the number Stephen Miller used, $100 billion. And I know that Thune is talking about $60 to $80 billion. But I want to talk about drones. I'm glad you brought up Trump.
You don't want
drones.
to shortchange this. It's too important to the country.
Exactly. That's right. That's what the American people want. They don't want it shortchanged. But House lawmakers will be briefed on China's efforts efforts to infiltrate America through American telecom companies, steal data from our phone calls. It comes as congressional leaders agreed on that nearly $900 billion defense bill, with the House vote expected tomorrow. The bill includes $3 billion for U.S. telecom companies to remove equipment made by Chinese firms Huawei and ZTE. The bill does not include Countering CCP Drones Act, which bans the sale of Chinese DJI drones in the United States. The bill does mandate a national security agency to assess the risks posed by certain Chinese manufactured drones. But I want to get your take. I mean, I guess it was a couple of years ago when Joe Biden said, oh, we're going to stop buying telecom components from China and putting them in our systems. What we failed to do at that time is rip out the existing Huawei and ZTE equipment that still remains. And obviously, we see how vulnerable we are with this most recent Salt Typhoon hacking incident from China. How significant a worry is this for people knowing now that China has hacked their phones? And this goes all the way up to really sensitive information from the incoming president, J.D. Vance, et cetera. And why are we still buying drones from China, knowing that that drone, whatever it sees, China can see?
Yeah, and look, we're having a classified briefing today, Maria, on Salt Typhoon. It's a major concern, along with others. I mean, you saw us be very aggressive to Huawei, ZTE, some of the other companies. But it's been hard to get this administration to stand up against China. You've seen that at every step. Our Chinese task force has done a lot of good bipartisan work to ultimately push back against the threat China poses. But Joe Biden has not been aggressive like you're going to see Donald Trump be. So, you know, we weren't able to get all the things we wanted in this NDAA, but it's a really good start. And at least it acknowledges the threat that drones pose that are made in China. But we're going to finish, as you alluded to, the $3 billion we're putting in this bill to rip and replace, as it's called, to rip out Huawei and all of that other bad Chinese equipment and replace it with better technology that's not a threat to our national security. So we're going to do that. When President Trump comes in, I think you're going to be able to see we can go a lot further, and we're ready to do that.
Well, it doesn't seem like $3 billion is going to be enough to rip out all that equipment that is embedded in our equipment, Congressman. That sounds like a drop in the bucket.
We're going to finish it when President Trump comes in.
I'm sorry?
We're going to finish it when President Trump comes in.
I see. Okay. Congressman, it's great to talk with you this morning on such important issues. Thanks so much.
Always great being with you. Thanks.
Good to see you. Steve Scalise joining us. Stay with us. We'll be right back.